Ninja Blade is a poor man's God of War combined with a poor man's Ninja Gaiden 2, but unfortunately Microsoft decided to charge full price for this game. You play as a ninja, Ken, who has to fight an outbreak of parasitic monsters. There's not a whole lot of depth here. The story itself isn't going to win any Oscars, but it overall kind of makes sense in an over-the-top anime sort of way. The story can be a bit fractured as you're moving through from one plot point to the next, but by the end of the game you'll have an overall sense of exactly what's going on, which is more than most games can say. The problem with Ninja Blade's visuals is that everything is kind of generic, and what isn't generic is just flat out bad. All the enemies look like something you've seen before in another game, all of the environments seem sort of repetitive and drab. There's just kind of a been there, done that feel to the game. And the style itself is downright terrible, and I'm not just talking about the unlockable endless flower suit you can see here. Ken looks a bit like a cheap knockoff of Ryu from Ninja Gaiden, and although it's clear that From Software was going for a bit of a tongue-in-cheek feel at the game, it really falls flat. As you progress through the game, you'll see that environments and textures and enemies get reused. There's even an entire level of the game where you just revisit areas and fight bosses that you've already beaten again for no reason whatsoever. If I wanted to replay missions and fight old enemies, I'd just do it from the menu, which you can do in this game, so there's really no point for this level to exist at all. The gameplay is a weird mishmash of quick-time events, on-rail shooting segments, and hack-and-slash combat. It's clear that From Software was looking to mix up the gameplay and make sure that nothing grew too stale, but in the end it just feels like you're constantly jumping between different styles of gameplay and you can never really get into a groove. If you're a big hack-and-slash fan, you'll find that there's a whole lot of other stuff that gets in the way of the core gameplay mechanics. Not that there's a whole lot there with the core gameplay. The combat in Ninja Blade is lacking, which is ultimately its major downfall for me. You can upgrade weapons and learn new moves, but there was really no point. The game is ridiculously easy. As I quickly learned, if you equip Ken's strongest sword, all you have to do is jump and hit the Y button, and you'll beat just about every enemy in the game, including a lot of bosses. That's because the enemy AI in Ninja Blade is really bad. Most of the enemies will just stand there and shoot at you, or slowly walk towards you and attack, and all of the boss enemies just follow patterns. None of it really feels like you have any interaction with the enemies on screen. And that's not even getting into some of the obnoxious sequences in Ninja Blade. There are sections where you'll just blindly run towards the camera and have to jump over pits that you can't even see coming. And there are repetitive boss fights where the entire layout is tedious, which it seems to only exist to extend the length of the game. And then there's the Ninja Vision move, which just looks awful. If you're going to play Ninja Blade, it's for the awesome Todome finishing moves. Although each level is a little bit tedious to get through and the boss fights themselves aren't anything special, killing the bosses is fun. Once you get them down to 0 health, you can run in for this cool, stylish, cinematic killing move using QuickTime events. They make you wish the entire game had this kind of style.
Eat this!
Overall, I found Ninja Blade to be a bit generic and rather tedious in its gameplay. It's not broken, and if you are really scrounging for a game to play this spring, it is passable and you can get through it and have a little bit of fun with it. The biggest challenge for me was overcoming the tedium to get to the end of each level where I had the big payoff. Of course, you can just watch the Todome finishing moves online and save yourself the trouble of playing through the entire game. For the full written review, head over to IGN.com.